morning, welcome to CATEX TV. My name is Frank Fortunato. Today is Thursday, November 29th, 2012. The Financial Times and a number of other outlets are reporting that SAC Capital, the huge hedge fund based up in Connecticut, has received a Wells notice from the U.S. government. This means that they are very likely to face civil fraud charges in what authorities say is the biggest case of insider trading yet. American regulators are apparently closing in on the $14 billion hedge fund. Development threatens to undermine the confidence and reputation of the fund's founder, Stephen Cohen. SAC held a 20-minute phone call yesterday with investors, saying that it was informed last week that the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, was planning to bring civil fraud charges against it. This is a procedure known as a Wells notice. Mr. Cohen spoke briefly on the call, saying that he was confident that he and the firm had acted appropriately, according to people who listened in on it. Apparently, the company was served with the Wells notice on the same day that charges were filed against Matthew Martoma, a former SAC portfolio manager who was arrested on insider trading charges last week. Well, any minute now in Paris, the French High Court is going to reveal their verdict, the final verdict, on who was to blame for the July 2000 crash of an Air France Concorde at Charles de Gaulle International Airport in Paris that left 113 people dead. Ended up with the Concordes being taken out of service. This follows a 3-month appeal hearing earlier this year in which the American carrier Continental, now merged with United Airlines, attempted to have its conviction overturned. It had been determined that Continental had caused the crash because of a sliver of metal which had fallen from a Continental DC-10, which had taken off from Charles de Gaulle Airport before the Concorde rolled down the runway. Experts testified that the piece of metal that had fallen off the Continental DC-10 burst the Concorde's tire, causing it to damage the fuel tank in the plane, and then in turn triggering a leak which caused the explosion, which in turn caused the plane to crash shortly after takeoff. That verdict is going to come down actually any minute now, it seems. In other airline or aircraft news, the National Transportation Safety Board yesterday recommended improvements and rule changes for freight aircraft. Freight aircraft are more numerous than passenger aircraft. UPS, DHL, and Federal Express are amongst the world's largest carriers and fly all night, throughout the night, just about everywhere, delivering goods and cargoes back and forth across the world. According to current federal regulations, currently, fire detection systems on cargo planes are required to alert pilots within 1 minute of a fire starting. The NTSB's investigations have found that current systems detect fire and smoke anywhere from 2.5 minutes after the fire begins to 18 minutes after the fire begins. The NTSB said that they're going to require better early detection of fires inside cargo containers, development of fire-resistant containers, and they are going to require active fire suppression systems on all freight airlines. This is long overdue. A number of these air freight planes are very old and not necessarily the safest planes around. All states announced a $1.1 billion loss due to Tropical Storm Sandy. They said that they expect to take reinsurance recoveries of only about $200 million. Allstate has a very complex combination of reinsurance vertical layers, including a nationwide program as well as a separate layer for just New Jersey, which was the hardest hit. News for Colombia that the Colombian government is launching a program to protect coffee plantations and coffee growers hit by climate change. After 3 years of bad weather and a recent slump in international bean prices, Colombia is broadening a financial instrument currently offered to some farmers to encompass those of coffee growers. Apparently, the value of the plant which will be insured is going to depend on the age of the plant. It's going to be just like a car. If it's a young plant or an old plant, that will determine how much indemnification will be received by the grower. Meanwhile, in Jackson, Ohio, a 31-year-old man was sentenced to 5 years in jail. The individual named of Christopher Haynes apparently plowed through an intersection and was involved in a crash and ended up killing a 10-year-old boy. Mr. Haynes was reading a text message at the time he missed the stop sign and plowed into the now deceased 10-year-old. At the White House today at 12:30 p.m., President Obama will be hosting Mitt Romney for lunch at the White House. This is a long tradition in American politics where the victor and the vanquished typically meet. There'll be a couple of press opportunities, mainly photographic opportunities, before the lunch, I'm sure. Then the lunch will be closed off to any other observers. It is not expected at this point that the president will offer Mr. Romney any sort of position. There had been some talk of that immediately after the election. However, Mr. Romney's comments since the election would seem to have distanced him from that possibility. That's the news from today. If we have any breaking news, we'll come back and tell you. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.